Weekdays online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. The continuing reckless disregard for the truth from the D.C. press corps and its regional outposts to fan the flames of leftist grievance politics and even violence, because these are ends justify the means types. KTLA in Los Angeles. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem attends ICE raid of home of pregnant LA County mother. ICE is raiding the homes of people, of pregnant women to uproot them from their home and their family. No. Bill Maloogian actually was with Kristi Noem and ICE for that operation, and he reports, to correct the record, it wasn't targeting a pregnant mother. It was targeting her previously deported illegal alien Mexican husband who had been convicted of drug trafficking in February and had an attempted murder charge pleaded down to an assault conviction.
Well, there you go.
ICE had a criminal warrant for his arrest signed off by a federal judge because he illegally re-entered the U.S. after removal, which is a felony. That's slightly different than targeting pregnant mother in L.A. Slightly different.
Just a tad bit.
This is what gaslights all of these senior Marxists that populate the town squares in metropolitan areas like Chicagoland, and did so this past weekend. It is highly annoying. And in addition to the speakers they feature, like that shrew and former DNC member. She's out now. She quit.
Oh.
There's trouble in River City over at the DNC. But anyway,
David Hogg.
Randy Weingarten was featured at one of these No Kings rallies, spreading misinformation like KTLA, because, you know, that's what they do.
You are the community to this president's chaos. And together, we build a future of opportunity and justice for all. Hope over fear, aspiration over anger, the promise of America for each and every American. That is what we are fighting for today.
Yeah, aspiration over anger. That was really featured at these rallies around the country. But Randy was speaking to her people, those who are illiterate thanks to attending government schools. Chadwick Moore is a New York Times bestselling author of Tucker, the biography of Tucker Carlson. His Substack is at Chadwick Moore, substack.com/@Chadwick Moore. Chadwick Moore, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning. Great to be with you.
Give us your summary after perusing what the left offered this weekend.
Well, I mean, mission accomplished. It's Monday, and we still don't have a king, so they're 250 years too late. But you know, better late than never. Thank you for that, I guess. They, we had there's a local city councilwoman here in New York, Vicky Palladino from Queens, who's a Republican, who really summed it up nicely. She said that, they're protesting, King's anti-authoritarianism, but look at any solid blue city like New York, like Chicago, like LA, and that is where you have true authoritarianism. You have one-party Democrat rule in these fiefdoms that is ironclad. You absolutely have zero opposition to anything that comes up for a vote in these places. That's a far cry from how Washington looks. You see what trouble Trump has in this term and even in his first term getting anything done. So it doesn't look anything like a monarchy or an authoritarian regime, but certainly our cities do. And that's really all you need to look at for the hypocrisy of these people. Of course, And then, of course, you have Kamala Harris. Like, nobody points to the fact that, first of all, they were calling her Queen, Yas Queen, so I guess that one's okay when she was running. But she didn't go through any sort of process. They didn't hold a primary, the Democrats. She was just anointed and then, of course, lost. These people are ridiculous. I mean, it seemed like an utter failure, really, because not many people were paying attention to what they were doing, and they ended up just being a joke.
Yeah, I mean, for goodness sake, they treated Barack Obama like the Christ child. I mean,
he's the second coming,
yes,
folks.
Right.
I mean, please.
So much of this is centered around ICE and removing people from this country who are here illegally and also pose a public safety threat. New York Post, though, had a story over the weekend. Nearly 1 million immigrants have self-deported under Trump.
Wow.
So, some are definitely taking advantage of the window that was provided so that maybe one day you could come into this country legally, and then stay if you play by the rules and you're otherwise interested in being productive, which many people trying to get into this country want to do and are. And it really provides more separation and isolation with from the left's position of open borders, abolishing ICE, and defending sanctuary jurisdictions, as we saw again last week.
Yeah, and they're trying to paint this whole operation as being so cruel, and Republicans and Trump supporters are just so inhuman to treat these people this way. And nobody points to the fact of how cruel it was to have open borders in the first place. That the Democrats so cruelly let these people in where they're going to be second-class citizens, they're going to make lower wages, they're not going to have voting rights, they're not going to have the same rights as any person who legally belongs here. And, of course, eventually there was going to be a Republican or someone else to come in and start deporting people and to upend their lives. So the open borders is what was cruel and inhuman. And even just looking at the countries that these people come from, if things are so bad in your country because of gang warfare or whatever, nothing's ever going to get better if everyone's just allowed to leave and get up and come to the United States. They don't like to point to those facts.
Well, they also like to point to the facts that a lot of people here are trafficked here or otherwise exploited en route to get here, too. So you're enriching cartels and other insidious organizations by your open borders policy, as Tom Homan always makes the case that, secure borders save lives.
Exactly. And they don't like to talk about any of that. They don't want to point any attention to that. They're just using the same old tired emotional arguments, but it's not working because the majority of America, I think as last I saw, was 52% of all Americans still support mass deportations and not just people who've committed additional crimes since they enter the country legally.
So all of this anti-ICE, protests and no King's Day, it seems to be taking away from LGBTQ++ Pride Month.
I know.
Are you upset as a gay man?
I really don't think that we've gotten enough attention lately. I don't think that people talk about us enough. And so it's just a real tragedy that the 1 month that we have that maybe someone might listen to us and we might get a little media coverage is being taken away by these deportations. That's the big crime, really.
I know. Well, you wrote an article in the New York Post, though, about pride events across the nation are facing budget shortfalls. And who's to blame for that?
So, major corporations are stepping away from Pride and funding Pride events. And here in New York, the biggest Pride event in the country is 25% of corporate donors have retreated. These are companies like Pepsi, Garnier, a bunch of big banks, a bunch of defense contractors. I don't know why they're sponsoring Pride, but there you have it. If you listen to the organizers of these events, and this is happening across the country, not just in New York, and if you listen to the nonprofits that run these organizations, and also reporters for places like the New York Times, they say, well, these companies are just really scared of a backlash from the Trump administration if they are caught, I don't know what, putting their logo on a float. I don't think the Trump administration is too concerned about that. But what's probably more likely or just as likely is that these companies over the previous 4 years felt an immense amount of pressure to step up their woke bona fides by not only sponsoring Pride events, but increasing their DEI operations within their businesses, really feeling the Democrat gun in their back. And now they don't feel that pressure anymore. And they also perhaps see the fact that these events have become extremely toxic. They've become far left political rallies, whereas they once maybe were a weekend of fun and revelry for a subculture. Now they've become these sort of aggressively far left political rallies, and also all these videos going around of children being there, of public nudity, of public lewdness. What company at straight mind wants to be involved in that if they don't have a Democrat administration putting the gun in their back, saying that they need to start coughing up money for gay events and DEI initiatives?
Now, as the official biographer of Tucker Carlson, and you wrote the book Tucker, his biography, I got to ask you about this contretemps between, say, the Tuckers of the world, but specifically Tucker, and the people he's calling out as warmongers like Sean Hannity and Mark Levin and Rupert Murdoch. And Trump weighed in on this a bit indirectly in an interview he gave to The Atlantic, where he said, considering I'm the one that developed the term America First, and considering that the term wasn't used until I came along, which is not exactly true, but that's okay. I think I'm the one that decides that. For people who say they want peace, you can't have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon. So for all of those wonderful people who don't want to do anything about Iran having a nuclear weapon, that's not peace. And that was a shot across the bow at Tucker Carlson's The Real Divide is between the peacemakers and the warmongers and the people calling on Trump to do something about Iran's nuclear program and otherwise support Israel's strikes against Iran's nuclear program are somehow warmongers. And he specifically refers to, as I said, Hannity, Mark Levin, Rupert Murdoch, Miriam Adelson. What are we to understand about Tucker's position on Israel, the Middle East, and peace there?
He's made it clear. He said a few times that, when it comes down to it, he's, on Israel's side, but he is ultimately doesn't want America involved in these conflicts anymore. And he's made a real effort on his show lately to get that out there, to have people on who are critical of Israel and their behavior, and not in the sense that, he's not one of these Israel doesn't have a right to exist from the river to the sea sort of people at all, or one of these like Jews control the weather sort of people, but he just doesn't want us in there. He said many times that he cares about this country and only this country. And he's been pretty consistent over the last couple years in that. And also seemed to have been trying to speak directly to Trump over several months to warn him against getting into a conflict with Iran and to stay out of the Middle East. So, he's being consistent in that. There's a big divide on the kind of Trumpian right where this is concerned, and what our role should be in that area and in that conflict.
Mark Levin and others who he's critical of call him Chatsworth Cutterlson. And they're suggesting something that people have said explicitly, that basically he's on Cutter's payroll, and this explains his change of view on Israel. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I've heard people saying that. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what documentation they've seen that Cutter has given him money or supported his company. And he's made jokes about it and said it's not true. But I guess coming from the amount of time that I spent with him and got to know him, I don't understand why he would let a foreign company invest in his venture. He's not struggling to make money on his podcast.
Right.
And after leaving Fox News, he said that he's never wanted to have another boss ever again. He had lots of people coming to him, offering him to back his new network. He had a lot of people offering him jobs to come for other networks. And he turned that all down because he wanted to be a free agent and independent. So I don't know why he would have a foreign country sponsoring him. I think he wouldn't do it for the simple fact that being so America first, if that were ever to be uncovered through documentation, it would completely ruin him. Why would you take that risk? I don't know.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, that's logical, but but with Qatar, they're sort of trying to do with politics what the Saudis have done with golf. sort of like a live political operation. It seems to me, and maybe this is just connecting dots that don't connect and making assertions because people are upset with positions he's taken and vice versa. So I'm not saying that I don't have any evidence. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this is the accusation that is being bandied about, and the context of said accusation, and it's just worth sort of investigating. And I mean, and it's a legitimate question. To ask of Tucker after he did that sit down with the emir of Qatar and the position, the evolution of his positions, or devolution maybe of his positions with respect to Israel. That's all.
I think that a lot of the people who are very hardcore on Israel that are in conservative American politics, I've seen them, and this is before the Iran strike. This has been going on for months when they've been coming after Tucker for having guests on that maybe said one or two things that were critical of Israel.
Yeah.
That, when they're coming after him in this sort of cancel culture mentality and making, it didn't work for the left for many years. I think that it's really not good for the strongly pro-Israeli people to be taking this line of attack against, someone like Tucker Carlson. It seems like there's probably a better way and a softer way to do it that isn't going to blow up in their face, because, it turns people off when you start trying to say they can't say certain things and start trying to go into smear campaigns because they're critical of one policy or another. That's just sort of my advice for those people.
Chadwick Moore is New York Times bestselling author of Tucker, the biography on Tucker Carlson, as we mentioned. You can find his musings on Substack, substack.com/@ChadwickMoore. Chadwick, thanks as always.
Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
Business owners, now's the time for your business to make the move to a locally owned business bank. Hi, Mike Gallagher here to let you know that you don't have to look far. Signature Bank was founded in